vana chingochema vachingochema chikomochie woyerere 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 vana vari kuchema mutsoka kwazi waichangamire vana vari kuchema mutsoka kwazi waivakurwe woinde mutsoka woyerere mutsoka wakasiya vana vachingochema vachingochema chikomochie wakasiya vana vachingochema vachingochema chikomochie vana vari kuchema mutsoka neandawe vana vari kuchema mutsoka kaguviwe kaguviwe mutsoka chaminuka we wakasiya vana vachingochema vachingochema chikomochie wakasiya vana vachingochema vachingochema chikomochie vachingochema chikomochie vana vari kuchema mutsoka chikomochie vana vari kuchema mutsoka chikomochie woyerere chema chikomochie woyerere chema chikomochie.
Greetings, 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 and more greetings to you good people. My name is DJ Holly and welcome to Point 5 Creative Studios. Chitubu che content, chitubu chisingapo, chitubu chinonwa nemunhu wese, chitubu chakavhenekwa chikaongororwa nana mazvikokota kunzi aiwaka. Chitubu ichi chine content iri healthy, content iri clean, content yakachena yakakodzera kunge chikonsumwa nemunhu akaita kunge iwewe. Ndosaka uri panapa muzuva ranhasi. So if it's your first time here, dzvanya subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any exciting content uploaded. Asi kana wanga wagara uri mugari wepanapa dangokutenda nekuti sei nekukurumidza kubhadhara rent. Thank you very much for supporting Point 5 Creative Studios. Right, sezvandavimbisa kubva nezuro nanhasi makuseni ndanga ndichitaura kuti ndichange ndina Ruvimbo tichikurukura nenyaya dziri kuitika muZimbabwean politics, achituonesawo kuti zvakamira sei, zviri kufamba sei, uye vanhukadzi vari kuzvigona sei in the space. Saka kana une mubvunzo waunawo, une chaunacho chauroda kuziva, kana any comment yaunenge uchida kuisa, aiwaka unenge wakasununguka kuisa comment yako mutop chat kana musuper chat wobvunza mubvunzo yako yauroda kuita sei, yauroda kubvunza. So without wasting much of your time, with me on the line ndina Ruvimbo. Ruvimbo, hi, how are you, and welcome to Point 5 Creative Studios.
Hello, Murisei Mkoma Alpha.
Aiwa, hai ndiribo ameno kuriseko kuchando. How is everything that side?
Yeah, we're freezing. We really need to go back home.
Mafunga kumba ere.
Aiwa ndafunga kumba.
Aiwa zvinodiwa. Tisingatambise nguva, toda ngoti tingoita a short and sweet interview. Toda kuti ungopawo an introduction to the people kuti vamboziva kuti Ruvimbo ndiani in short, in like 1 minute or so, and then toda tongotanga kushimhanyira ipapo.
Okay, amazing. So in English for Ruvimbo, I'm probably going to speak more in English because I'm probably more articulate in English. But I currently work for an organization. I look after a platform that delivers training. So I basically travel around the UK delivering training to churches, especially on how they can use digital tools for evangelism, discipleship, and things like that. But outside of that, I've been doing a lot of activism work, especially thinking about Zimbabwe, because I came to the UK when I was 12 years old. I'm now 29. And so I think there's been a passion that I've had about how do we restore back our land. My mom, she came here, and I'm really desiring that she goes back home and retires and rests, because she's already done quite a lot for me, my siblings. So, passionate about Zimbabwe and passionate about seeing how I can transition what I'm currently doing to advocating for freedom for Zimbabwe.
Right, thank you for that. Hanzi naMolin Matanga mukoma holi muri sei pamwe chete na Ruvimbo. We are good, we are very good. If you have any questions, mulongo makanda mtop chat kana super chat, and then I will ask Ruvimbo. Ruvimbo, you are one of the people vandinoziva kuti you don't spend a day without posting anything on X. you don't spend a day without posting, and you are one of the people andakaona akatanga kuramba kuti 2030 no to 2030. Why is it that you are saying no to 2030?
Yeah, I think on X, do you know what, my journey on X started in September last year. Before then, I had an account and get it dormant. I didn't even have a picture on there. But then I'll tell you this because I don't think you know this. I actually was watching your shows. And that's what led me on to Twitter. Yes, yeah. Okay. It was your show that I would watch, you and Rumbi Uncensored, because I wanted to get an idea of like what is actually going on the ground. I might not know all the details, but I really wanted to take an opportunity to learn. And so your content, Rumbi Uncensored, and many others, but I think the two of you were really the ones that were my go-to every day. I would come and listen to the stuff, and there were things that inspired me. So in terms of just again going back to your question about why not to 2030 with that context, is I really started to feel as if with the digital skills that I have and the communication skills that I have, it's important now to start inspiring and empowering young people, especially, and others, many others who share the same sentiment. They're tired of being in the diaspora. Many of us, we are not happy. But it's a real issue. Kune ma issues akawande kuti vanhu struggle ne depression, vari struggle ne kuti you are in a rat race. All you're doing is constantly working. You almost like work to live, not actually live to work. Rather than, because I think at the moment it's like you find majority of the people vakabva ku Zimbabwe vakauya kunoku, or they'll say but Shingo Shanda, we're always working. It's like kumashure. And so whenever I think about that, and I think about even some of the spaces yandinenge campaign, I've noticed over the years kuti Zimbabweans are, and the biggest thing is the mindset. So thinking about the psychology of that, especially in digital marketing or in marketing in general, they'll tell you about the fact that you need to be the person that's in front of people. You need to be the person that's going to be what's called top of mind, because kind of top of mind, that means that your message is the one that penetrates the most. So that's why you see ZANU-PF being very, very repetitive in their language, because one of the things that you notice with this 2030 message is it's really a psychological thing. They are saying it so much so, they are singing it, they are speaking it, they are saying it every time to the degree where eventually you start singing those songs subconsciously without you realizing these things. So there's definitely an element here where I realized that if somebody doesn't give an alternative voice, this thing is going to go to pass, and many of us are actually not going to have an opportunity to change anything. So really the key thing for me was just to give an alternative voice, coming from a female, coming from a young person, and also just trying to connect with the people in terms of many of the people who are saying actually 2030 is just too much. It's already, we're suffering. We really want these people to go like Nezuro, tinoti vanhu vange vakaenda muna 2023 but chiripo. So it's like no aiwa taneta. And so it was really important for me to pass that message.
Okay, what are the challenges that you have been facing right now? I will mention this scenario where George Charamba said kuti mwana uyo atinetsa nezvimavideo zvake. How do you feel kushungurudza vanhu vakuru kudaro to that extent?
Yes, oh my days. I want ruvashungurudza zveshuwa. Kutonyasoshaya kuti waichasei neni. Vanombosenda ma-CIO. I can't tell you the number of CIOs or agents that have come to try and get to know me. Questions. Ruvimbo uyu ndiani? Like, where does she come from? Just that inquisitive. People are wanting to find out who am I working with? Who am I working for? And there's also issues with people like you said, like George Charamba, where he's being very vocal about the fact that actually they have access to my videos and they do not like them. And the reason why they do not like them is because they're very impactful. One of the key things I noticed, because I started this journey in 2020. I started this journey in 2020, but I got demotivated ne Varakash. That was the biggest thing. Varakashi vangwa kundishungurudza panyaya yekuti vanokudemotivata, vamwe vacho vanokupa platform pretending as if they are for you but really vanongokudzosera kumashure. Unoita vanhu vanenge uchiona kuti zvoni sometimes vanokushamwaridza in a way of like as if you share the same sentiments, but down the line it's as if they start telling you kuti aiwa zvauri kuita izvi, how would you feel if moms vako vakazoonekana netsaona, it's like those subtle threats. But when you realize actually, and I think what was inspiring is because I saw yourself and Rumbi talking, I said, but these people are alive, they're breathing. Saka, what really should I be afraid of? And I think it really starts with that I also wanted to be an addition to what you guys are doing, to say, look, don't be afraid. You don't need to be afraid of these people, because really they're more afraid of you than you should be of them. Because they know kuti as Zimbabweans, that's why you have to always look at where people invest their money. It's really important. These people invest their money in Varakashi. They invest their money in message and narrative. So isusu tema Zimbabwe tikanyasozvinzwisisa kuti ayewa, there is actually power in our voices. Even tikasaenda mu street tichinomacha tichinoita say, actually there is power in our voices. And the issue is many of us think kuti the threats have any validity, because majority of these people will always vane tactic yavanoita yekuti zvoni kana ukaona muCIO akauya achida kutaura neweka anobva kutanga kusendera ma-articles evanhu vakamboirayiwa nenyaya idzodzidzi to make you fearful. But to be honest, there's more people who are talking up against all of these stuff, and I suppose we have to get to a point ourselves where we're saying, actually, if more of us speak, how would they be able to silence us? And that's going to be impossible for them to do.
Yes, that's true. Even me, I remember the other day I was doing a live stream, and the first comment on that live stream was, go against the government, you pay with your life. And I'm like, come on, man, come on, don't do that, man. You see, in front of all the people, you come and say something like that. Okay, moving forward. Dr. Comrade Geza is trending at the moment. How do you feel? Yes. Feel say with someone, at least now someone, it's not him. We also have Clive Malunga. We also have other guys from ZANU-PF. They are noticing it. What we were doing, what we are doing at the moment, it's not right. Do you think with the ZANU-PF yakumuka, or it's just one of their games they are playing?
That's so interesting, because the propaganda apa, it's so difficult kunyasonzwisisa kuti chii chiri kuitika. So there's different schools of thoughts in the way that I've been analyzing it. Obviously, pane vanhu vari a bit nervous kuti, okay, my comrade ava vakambotirasisa pa 2017. But then at the same time, when you really listen to what they've been saying, especially the first video yakaitwa na comrades Geza last year na Darabi, if you listen to that interview, the whole thing, you hear some nuances in that video, but you also hear the same nuances in the follow-up video. Vane vamwe vavo. And it was this, kuti zvinoita here kuti isusu takarwa, but you are not giving us my positions.
Yes.
So that point, ipapa manje, kuti these people are being very clear about what it is that they want out of this thing, which is fine. I think they are allowed to ask for that. You know, I don't think it's unreasonable for them to ask for that. But I think we have to be very clear about what it is that they want. Because isusu sema Zimbabweans, I'm realizing we now need to be in a position of negotiating with them to say, okay, tazvinzwa. Zvamuri kutaura aiwa matonya soti nyengerera, we're getting closer. We can join you in this thing, but we need reassurances. And I think so far, the comrades have not done a good job of doing that. What are they offering to the people? And I think one of the challenges I've received back with this line of thought is, well, we don't have a leader who's able to lead us in these negotiations. But then I always go back to the thing, why is this Sema Zimbabweans? We're always waiting to be led.
Yes.
It seems to be like we're very sheepish. We don't know how to lead our own. We don't know how to take ownership. It's like we're just still in the mentality, yema slaves. The way yatiri colonized is the way yatrungoramba chingo funga. But we have to come out of that. This thing starts with our mindset. First, secondly, it starts with us being very clear about what we want. Because if we're not clear about what we want, we will be very disappointed if Ed is removed through a coup, and then at the end of that, we still have the same Zimbabwe. Then you have people asking, well, who's going to be the next leader? Who's going to come in and I've heard people challenge and say, actually, we don't have to know who is going to come after Ed. We just need Ed gone. And I think, okay, that's great. But don't you think that it's also going to be equally chaotic? Because this is exactly what happened with Mugabe. We didn't know who was going to be next. I remember I said this particular statement. I said, military force so now we're seeing the same pattern. And I think we have to be super careful that we just don't jump on the bandwagon because of sweet words that are being delivered to us. But Pakanzi, this is the last dance before sunset. I said, yes, I'm ready. I'm ready for this to be the last dance for these people. Yes. But we have to be smart about it. So that's my thoughts, really.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who's watching us at the moment. If you have any questions for Ruvimbo, please feel free to send them on the super chat or top chat. So moving forward, the voices of female politicians, the voices yavanokadzi doing activism, doing standing in for the people, for other women masina mazwi. We have seen, for example, Advocate Fadzai Mahere receiving threats and attacks from both angles, left and right and center, and Namatai and all other girls also that are out there. Even you also yourself, at some point, you receive those things. And the mentality that we have, us as a Zimbabwean men, tikaona muskana wese anotaurisa paruzhinji, tunofunga she wants attention, atori pambi, arutsvaga varume. How do you see that view?
Yeah, I cannot control zvinofungwa nevanhu. You know, people are always going to think what they think. I think one of the things I'm realizing, and I hope that many other women realize this as well, is and someone even said this to me, Kuti, actually the Zimbabwean government is extremely afraid of women. They're afraid of women. I don't know why, but they're very afraid of women. And so you see, Kuti Joni, the level of attack they will give to a woman is actually 10 times worse than the one that they would give to a man. Okay, so zviongorora over time, you notice actually they've been very severe with the women than the men. And so you have to ask yourself why, because we're very powerful. Not that we're better than, but there's just something that's very threatening to them that I can't put my finger on. So what do we do in this case as women? I think we have to own the fact that tashungurudzwa nevana ava. We always have been at the back end of abuse, especially like the Zimbabwean men, which is really we never receive my Zimbabwean men, majority of them. That's not all of them, by the way, because I've really met some amazing Zimbabwean men. But for the majority, especially those in government, they will, all the things that you said, say, if you're single, for me, obviously, they've not seen a husband, they've not seen a boyfriend. They've said, oh, so if you keep doing this, you're going to end up as a old croon. This was one of the comments I received. I've received many comments of people saying to me, what I'm doing is not attractive and it will keep me single. But for me, with all of the statements that they make, I always go back to my foundation. I don't do this for me. I do this for the Zimbabwean people. If I end up not being married and the purpose is I liberated Zimbabwe, that's absolutely fine. If I end up being in a position where maybe I lose everything for the freedom of Zimbabwe, that is absolutely fine. If I end up losing my life for the purpose of Zimbabwe, and I've said this time and time again, that is fine, because I'm a Jesus follower. I'm a Christian. I worship, I pray, and I know that I've stepped into this because God has called me. I never wanted to do this. This work that I'm doing right now is literally something that I ran away from. I was telling you before, Kuti, I got discouraged. But Mwari pusher towards that direction. Me, my personal interests are more in digital technology. Really, if you ask me what my dream job would be, it's like I want to work in Silicon Valley. That's what I want. But there's a call of the people, and I think when you and I saw a comment, sorry, I'm digressing a little bit, but I saw a comment on my TikTok, and you should just be okay with your comfortable life. There's no way you can have a comfortable life when the rest of your people are suffering and are dying. Border South Africa, children are being trafficked. How can we as Zimbabweans be okay with that? So it's me knowing there's a lot of things that stress me, that don't give me peace. But as a Christian, I'm wired for justice. I'm wired for knowing that my brother and sister, I am my brother's keeper. So knowing that my brothers and sisters are safe, are okay, and that there is liberation in Zimbabwe. And in terms of my protection and everything else, as the Bible says, seek first the kingdom and everything else will follow. God has never let me down. I feel like everything I have, all the opportunities I've had, is been because of that relationship. And so I just trust in his protection in every step I take.
Nice. For those who are just joining us, we've got Ruvimbo on the line, and we are discussing what is going on, the political situation in Zimbabwe. And if you have any questions, please feel free to send them through. I have a question here. Zimbabwe's future. What's the alternative to the 2030 mantra? If not Vision 2030, what kind of leadership and policies should Zimbabwe focus on?
That's a really good question. But I suppose my counter question to that is also is the system we have working? I think we have to start there. We know that our elections do not work. We know that we have governments and systems that just do not work. So we need to start there. And I'm not quite sure of the technicalities of how this happens. I assume that experts will be able to know how to do this. But we have to start there, because right now, if let's say, for example, Ed is removed, then Chiwenga comes in, then let's say Chamisa comes back, and we still have the same system, we're still going to have the same problem.
Yes.
So even if a new leader comes in, when we've got over Rakashizawa and all of that stuff, we really need to kind of scratch everything we have and start again. And I think one of the biggest things that we don't realize is we've inherited this government from our colonizers. So how was Zimbabwe being run before colonization? It's like we don't discuss that history very much, and many of us are very divided on what that history is. And I think if we go back to the roots of that and say, okay, how was Zimbabwe governed before? Because if we look around the world, right, Zimbabwe for a hot second, if we look around the world and we look at democracy is really not that free, it's not that fair. For US, you've seen the struggles that's been happening within the Democrats and the Republicans. You see in the UK, Shurwitika Omunomu, ne everyone saying kuti system yacho yem UK is corrupt. So when we look at that, Zimbabwe is not the only one that's corrupt.
Yeah.
However, it's the only one that's probably very open about it. And they don't really care. So we have to look at the system. And then also we need to do away with this whole thing of idolizing human beings.
Yes.
Kuti nasi Chamisa akabuda ati zoni guys inini I'm leaving politics. All of you now have depression for the rest of the year. Makuita say. It's like, yes, no, we would love it if Chamisa would come into power. For me personally, I don't have a party that I support. I think if I see somebody who's good, I'm going to be behind them. It's not about party politics for me. It's about the Zimbabwean people. But ultimately, we need to stop following individuals, but we need to also start taking our own action. Kuti aiwa, inini as an individual, what is it that I can do? And also, if I see someone, okay, I want to follow them, I also need to be smart enough to say, actually, I have to correct them. I have to not just follow them blindly, but instead be really intentional about challenging when I don't think things are correct, but also to encourage Zimbabweans to say, you also have a role to play. You know, you can't just leave it kune ava vari kutinyebera kuti vane ma-PhD because havana kana masters kana honors vakapedzera ku-A level, vamwe vari kufumurwa manje apa kunzi ma-MP edu, but they don't have any real degrees. So this is not about, you have to have a master's, you have to have a PhD. I'm currently working towards my master's, but at the same time, it's like, even if I didn't have these accolades, I was still speaking. Even before I even attained my master's, I'm still speaking up, because whether I think I have all the knowledge or not, it's still important to be learning on the way. And so we need to be really scrutinizing the constitution that we have, the system that enforce the constitution, and also looking at how we are supporting leaders, because we don't want to be slaves to anybody anymore.
Yeah, that's powerful. I came across one of your videos the other day when you were listing down most corruption cases as a Chivayo. What's your thought on that individual?
Okay, so I don't say this about many people, but I hate the spirit that is operating in that man, because it's not inini. I try to separate kuti munhu ane mweya mumwe sowe kuti handinyatsozinzwisise kuti Zimbabwe is suffering, but unenge uchiseka vanhu uchiti hapana zvamunondiita. It's like, okay, you're stealing money. And you're parikuitwa catch and release every time. Like, I just don't understand. So my thoughts, I think that something is going on that I'm really not clear on between Wicknell and Ed, because how can someone, but DJ Horish Bondudze, which is no famba say, could someone who say ndakachibata kuti so president hawana kuinzwa ere voice note
Wakainzwa, obviously.
Saka, how did he feel about it? Because it seems like now Wicknell akwenda kunosangana na William Ruto, he's really traveling with his girlfriend, vachiimba zvavo masongs echechi, vachiti gaboroni mundege, maybe yakatengwa nemari, not maybe yakatotengwa nemari dzekuba. But one thing you have to realize about Wicknell is the reason why aine power yainayo is because ari kubatsira sekuru ava vedu ava ka sezviri kuitwa naHubert Angel. kuti
Yes.
vanhu ava vanenge vachienda vachinoita madeals outside of the country. Now, why is this important for us to really understand? The reason why this is important for us to understand is because Zimbabwe, I always say, is being used as a washing machine, just the same way we were told in Al Jazeera documentary, Gold Mafia. It's a washing machine. Our
Yes.
gold is being used to enable criminals all over the world. These are individuals, vakuraya vanhu, they're doing drug trafficking, because you have to understand kuti zvoni, illegal businesses are one of the top earning businesses that exist. If you look at how much is made in human trafficking, if you look at how much is made in drug smuggling and all of these things, this is what our government is supporting. So when you look at these things, Wicknell is very much at the center of this. And what I don't understand is how come in Zimbabwe, hatina body, inotizvonikana uri muZimbabwe, une business re muZimbabwe, we need to be understanding kuti ma financials ako at the end of the year what they are. In the UK, muno mukaita business, this information is public knowledge. In Indica Zodakwinda, and I actually went on one of Wicknell's businesses. So Wicknell had a business here in the UK. And you can go, it's a public knowledge. UK government website. You can see kuti angari partnered up nani. You can see address dzavo dzavanga vakaregister ipapo. You can see my documents. That company kazvakaitika ndezvekuti it got dissolved because anga asina kusubmita my financials aidiwa. So why didn't he do that? So they ended up dissolving this company. And Itika, to be honest, I've tried to start business here. It's difficult to keep up with taxes. It's difficult to keep up with making sure that you have the knowledge of how to do those things if you've never done them before. But with Wicknell, it's a pattern. Could see he's got all these different businesses, but you've got one website. That one website doesn't really tell you or give you any details of the projects that they're currently working on. You would imagine if you're dealing in solar, right? You can show us pictures, images, videos of the work that you're doing. I have never seen an account, a TikTok or Instagram account that is dedicating to promoting this business. When you go to the bottom of the website, you enter, something, it's a solar intra something Zimbabwe. If you go to the bottom, Panama social media icon, there's no social media links connected to that thing. So as a Zimbabwean, we really need to be looking at Wicknell with a fine-tooth comb. The businesses that he has, where are the financials? Because it doesn't seem like these things are available. And then we need to ask, why are they not available? Because clearly he's partnering up with the government, and as the people who elect the people in government, we actually have a right to know. And I think that's what I'll say about Wicknell.
Recently, I think, is it yesterday or today, I saw a post, Yangakanzija Preza, a new Range Rover is coming to you, and 150,000. And then Nangoshamisik and Gadaumana, this is now the third time giving to Japreza. And munyika, we don't have zvikwanisiro zvinodiwa, but ari kungopfachura maresources enyika. Pakaipa. Moving forward, I think I have one last question, and then to open up the platform for people to come in with questions if there are any questions. Let me check my questions here. Right, your words of encouragement to the girl child out there. Kuti asangofunga kuti upenyu, it's all about kuvhura an account at TikTok, I post half naked twerking and doing those things. Do one of my followers. What's your word of encouragement?
Yeah, I think it's to encourage the Zimbabwean girl child to know that she has more. And any area that she's experienced abuse, any area that she has experienced, people maybe not hearing her voice when it matters, that those things are training. I look at bad experiences, challenges as training, because you're being equipped to be strong so that you can rise up and be the change that you want to see. So I just want to encourage the girl child, especially those that have experienced abuse of any kind, whether that's physical, whether that's verbal, whether that's whatever you might deem as abuse, whatever you might deem as trauma. I want you to know that you can rise above that and you can become more than you can think or imagine. I've seen it with myself, and I'm no one special. Ndakakurira ghetto, I'm a ghetto child. Ndakaenda kuchikoro ndichigerwa zuda nevamwe, tichigara outside. It's not like, I was handed a silver spoon. It's just that I also had a mother who was very strong, a single mother who said, you know what, I'm going to go abroad to give a future for my child. So I just want to encourage that, because I've got sisters, young sisters who've got children, and I think of them, and I think actually I want to encourage every single one of them to know, Kuti, your story doesn't end at point of trauma, but trauma is the starting point, training point for you to go towards a bigger and better future where you can create change, you can have impact, and you can be influential wherever you go.
Nice, powerful. Tiripa, that mode yeku inspire and motivate people. I also want you to encourage the citizens. What role should the ordinary citizens play in pushing for accountability and real change? Inino zvangu munhuwo ndoitawo sei, ndiri kungoona sewik nevari kupa vamwe vanhu mota, inini kwangu hachisati chauya. Ndiri kungoona anonzi ani Jacob, uyu meya wedu wenhingiri mafume, ari kungoitawo zvaari kuita kukanzuru ikoko kusiti of Harare. Inini hapana chandokwanisa kuita here. Ndoitawo sei as an ordinary person?
Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the challenging areas to encourage someone, because first I want to acknowledge kuti ndinoziva zvinhu zvakaoma, guys. I know kuti like mashopu ari kuvharwa, and sometimes it feels like tiri kupa vanhu pressure kuti for them to stand up against government, for them to be killed, or for them to be threatened, or for them to see no change happening. But I want to encourage anyone who's listening, who's, what you've just described, kuti guys, it really has to start with our mindset. Yes. And I think sema Zimbabweans, culture yedu mindset zedu sometimes dzakavhonyoka. I don't know if that's the right term to use. And it really sounds like to say
dzakabhongonyoka. It's a disorder.
That's it.
Yeah.
Fun nickname. But that's it. And I'm not saying kuti inini ndine better mind. Inini, I've also had to go through therapy. I've had to go through I've studied psychology quite a bit. I've done what's called cognitive behavioral therapy, which says kuti, as a human being, especially kind of if you've been through experience of trauma, especially when you're thinking about from year 0 to 5, you are conditioned by your environment, Mumba and all of that stuff. So the behaviors you start seeing manifesting while over the age of 5 and above is coming from whatever the conditioning that you have during that period. And I always say kuti mama wangu vakazvarwa in 1972, and between 1972 and 1980, her first 5 years were in the war. So now imagine the trauma that person carries, and then now that same DNA psychologists have proven. There's a lady called Caroline Leaf that I love. She describes kuti DNA is actually passed on from generation to generation. So you have to understand kuti, especially semi-young people, majority of our parents grew up under oppression, grew up in the war, because papa ine several chimurengas, papa ine 2 chimurengas, sorry. So when you look at that, you have to understand kuti there's a lot of trauma, a lot of people who were born in trauma, they haven't received the mental support that they need. So we really do first and foremost need to work on our mental health. We need to be looking after one another. Parikunzi nyaya dze rape, parikunzi nyaya dze abuse my communities, we need to be holding Mano accountable, because if we're not doing that in our own communities, we're also not we can't just now skip to say now we want to do it towards government. It really has to start with our homes. It really has to start with our communities. Pamusika paya paya kuona munhu ari kuabuswa, you have to do something. And so how does an individual start to take steps? In summary, work on your mental health, start with your home, start with your community, and that can only move us forward to shifting what we see in government.
Right. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for the conversation. Vakawanda tadzidza zvakawanda. It's an eye opener. And then I know I have asked 3 more questions. And those are my last questions. This is my real last question. I'll take it way back just a little bit. Pane vanhu vaiti munhu wese kuna amai patime yaMugabe. Then Mugabe mbaabviswa enezvari kuti 2030. If Mnangagwa akabva, vanhu ivavo they are going to change again. What do you say kana kuti une mashoko aungade kutaura kuvanhu ivavo, in brackets togona ngoti varakashi?
I only have one word for Varakashi, and I hope that every Zimbabwean listening will start using this terminology for Varakashi. Because Varakashi mabishu. Mabishu a government. And excuse my French, I know that's like, come across as rude, but one of the key things is, and I always ask as well, and there's a new government that comes. Because I feel like now there's already a list yavanhu vari kuenda kunyanga uko vonotorwa nezvinotorwa vanhu kunyanga ikoko, kana kuti pane vanhu vari kuenda vanenge vachienda kuChinoi caves. Munoziva sometimes panombobuda nyaya dzanzi munhu akaenda kunoswima akazongodisappear. I feel like tita kungonzwa nyaya dzakadaro dzakawanda because you have to understand kuti vanhu ava vari kutambisa mushonga. Yes. Majority of those people varikuita ma rituals. I remember at some point, I don't know what it was a weird dream. Ndikaona paine vanhu varikunwa ropa, like as if they're short glasses. Varikunwa ropa, and I thought to myself, kuti aiwa, zveshuwa vanhu ava varikuita munoziva like ku Benin, ku Nigeria, ku Benin, like pane documentary yakabuda, there's like an area ku Benin, there's like an area in Congo or Ivory Coast, there's a river, and that river anzizvoni vanhu vanoenda kunowana mapowers avo ikoko. Saka ukanyasotarisa zviri kuitika muZimbabwe kuti government yedu varakashi ava, even ava vanoti vanoprofita ava. Mukatarisa vanhu vese vanoprofita muZimbabwe, bvunzai kuti who is their spiritual father?
Yes.
Because mukaona vachienda to the same spiritual father, mwabva manyasoona kuti aiwa spiritual father vava vari kuGhana uko. Spiritual father wavo Duncan Williams akava initiator kuti vaite zvavari kuita izvozvi. Saka varakashi ava vakaroiwa. So when I'm making statements kuti vasha disappear kana kuti pane zvichanyuka, it's true, because they're a product of zvinhu zviri kungosanganiswa muma circles ema-occult waya ari kuitika mugovernment medu.
Yeah, I think uri papo panyaya yama-prophets, nyaya yanapapa iyoyo. I will give you a simple example and maybe you can just touch on it and then we'll close. Do you think Zimbabwe, we are going to change? One, we've got people who still believe that Magaya is a man of God. Nema rape charges, anawo, nyadze fraud, murder cases and stuff. They still go there every Sunday. And then recently, ndakaona seweek nochivayo vachida kuklemperwa mota mutown, and my citizens, they were shouting kumunhu wecity parking achitaura kunzi asaklempe mota. Do you think with that kind of mentality yevanhu vanonotamba kurali vachipiwa chingwa vachitamba namaiweli. Zimbabwe is going to change nepfungwa dzevanhu vakadaro. I know kuti havasi vese, but kunana mapapa ukoko ndokwakawandira a lot of people. Do you think kuti tine kwatinoenda nevanhu vakadaro?
Yeah, super tight, really susu. Super tight because if someone is bewitched, you can't really do much about that.
Yeah.
Because they're blind, they're blind. And I think I genuinely feel sorry for these people. And I'm always trying to pray about this. I'm not going to say I pray about it all the time because but whenever I really feel moved, I really pray about this because I'm like, actually, you know what? These people, the reason why they've been drawn to this is because of their suffering.
Yes.
And because of their suffering, they've been drawn to somewhere where they've been lured into a strange thing. But because of the things that they've been manipulated to see, it's difficult for them to see what's being said outside. Now, I've studied cults. Pane cult yandakambo expose inonzi shinsho njiso somewhere in the Asian countries. I've got the video still. If you scroll down to my videos on my TikTok, that video still exists. But the way that these cults work is they really groom you slowly. And zvavari kuita ndezvekuti and ndinoda kuti vanhu vapanyasonzwisise ipapapa kuti every information inotaurwa nemunhu at all times actually creates physical DNA mauri. And as that information comes and creates DNA, it begins to shape who you are as a person. Saka ukaona munhu angotsamwa and they're having anger bursts and stuff, that thing has come from somewhere. So you have to understand kuti aya maprofita aya, you notice many of them have law degrees, many of them are well studied because they also studied vasingakudze izvenyu kuti vakastudy psychology. Saka the real problem irikuitika apa ndeyekuti these people are psychologically imprisoned. And so you really do have to go through a process of giving these people new information that allows them to see better. But again, if their leaders are isolating them from that other information, that's where it becomes very difficult. And so I think, Kuti, we have to now change our tactic because I know, Kuti Shoni, the moment that you're no longer popular in society is the moment you start realizing you want to go to where it's popular. Right now, it's popular to be a Marakash. Right now, it's popular to be Kunana Papa Daddy, Ana Mama, Ana Chichichi, all of that stuff. But if you start calling these people out, if you stop giving them a platform, if you actually also remove these people from the circles that you're trying to protect, you will notice many of them will come and they will say, aiwa, takuona ndizvinhu zvenyu zviri kutoshanda zveshuwa ndadongozoti ndinopindawo sei, aiwa, zvamagaya zviya ndakasiya, zvaubet angel ndakasiya, zvapassion java ndakazosiya hangu kuside. Who's the other one uya yakati anzi zvoni I'm more gifted than God? Makandiwa, that one. So all these people, I think they've done a very good job at just manipulating, people and manipulating their congregation. We do have to have grace for them, actually, but at the same time, we also have to be really intentional about not giving them space, because otherwise, and all of that stuff, eventually they will come and join us. But we also have to understand that right now they are being controlled.
Right, Anze Naru Mungwe, Zimbabwe should be a better country without those false prophets. Anze daiva sipo maprofita eNehemiah pamwe tingadai tiri nyika iri nani. On that note, your last words and then we close.
Yeah, on that note, I just look out for 2025. I think Junjakawanda is being exposed, and I think it's our duty now as Zimbabweans to make sure that we're sharing everything that's being exposed in our WhatsApp groups, making sure that we're sharing and talking about it anywhere that we are. If you're in the diaspora, especially if you've been able to attain some sort of power, it's important that you're advocating for the Zimbabwean people in those rooms that you're in. Sometimes it might just be one conversation. You don't have to have a big platform. And I say, if you do want to have a platform, you don't have to use your face as well. You can have a private account and you can communicate that way if you are worried about your safety. Ultimately, we have to be taking action, and action doesn't have to look like being on the streets marching, but it means us sharing same type of knowledge and also endeavoring to be a united people, to not tukana stereki too much. It's too much because it's like you see people arguing. I saw people arguing in my comment sections. I see people arguing all the time in my comment sections, and sometimes I think surely these arguments are useless. If we were just to say, okay, let's agree to disagree, iwe uri uku, iwe inindiri uku, but let's agree to disagree. We want the same thing. I just could have government then tikatangira ipapo, then we can say, okay, you know what, let's find common ground, kuti, what's the way we want to take chichi, but we have to be united. And so the last message I want to give is, as Zimbabweans, we have to be united, and it goes back to what I was saying before. It starts with you, it starts with your home, and then your community, for it to change government. And we have to be sharing information as much as possible and never get tired of sharing information and sharing everything that you're seeing online, especially parku expose kwavan.
Ruvimbo, thank you very much for your time, and ndozati it's a Friday izwa rekuti munhu angadai akazorora achitoitawo something else, but wasarudza kuti pawo nguva yako and takurukura panapa platform. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you, and thank you for everyone who was watching. I see Thomas, I see Rumungwe, I see KB, I see Moline, and a lot of people there. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you for supporting Point 5 Creative Studios. As for me, DJ Holly, and the rest of the crew behind the scenes, Ruti is bye for now. Let's meet in the next video.